Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Amityville Union Free School District Work Session Board of Education meeting. It is March 6th and the time is 5:32. At this point in time, I'm calling the meeting to order. Present at the meeting right now is myself, Lisa, President Johnson. We have first Vice President Jeanette Santos, second Vice President Carol Seahawk, Superintendent Dr. Jeannie Talbert, and Trustee Dave Heller. It is anticipated that Trustee Juan Leon and Trustee Liz Kretz will be arriving to the meeting. Also present at the time is Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction, Dr. Joan Lane, Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources, Dr. Bridget Wade, and Assistant Superintendent for Finances, Miss Olivia Biswatsi. Also present is our District Clerk, Melissa Durnan. At this point in time, at 5:33, and I have a motion to go into executive session for a particular person's employment history, as well as advice from counsel for update for ATA negotiations. And John Sheeting will be arriving as well. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
I'll do Carol Seahawk as first, Jeanette Santos as second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 4-0. We will resume open roughly around 7:25. Hope to see you then. Thank you. School District Work Session Meeting on March 6, 2024. The Board of Education met in executive session earlier this evening for the purpose of advice from counsel in regards to the ATA negotiations, as well as particular person's employment history. In the unlikely event of emergency, you need to know the exits are clearly marked. Take a moment to note the exit to nearest where you are seated. Smoking is not allowed on school grounds. As a courtesy, please turn off all cell phones. Please join the Board of Education in the Pledge of Allegiance. So at this point in time, I'm going to make a recommendation to the Board of Education, which is just to revise the order of the agenda just for tonight. And I'm going to make a recommendation to the board that we do agenda items 2A through E and then 3A through F, right? So we address those agenda items and then come back to the budget presentation. So therefore, our time will be just devoted to the budget presentation, which is very important. So I'm asking the Board of Education, are you okay with revising the order of the agenda to do agenda item 2A through E and then 3A through F? And then we'll come back and we'll do the budget presentation. Can I have a motion to revise the order of the agenda? Jeanette Santos is first.
Second.
Carol Seahawk is questions. Any questions about the revision of the agenda from the board? Please note that the community still will have community input on those agenda items 2AE through 3AF. And then once we get done with the budget presentation, you will also have the ability to comment on that as well. Mhm. So we have Jeanette Santos was first, and then Carol Seahawk was second. Any other discussion from the board regarding the revising of the agenda, the order of the agenda? All those in favor? Aye. Mr. Heller? Right. The motion carries 6-0, right? So once again, we will come back to the budget presentation, right? We'll do agenda items 2A through E, then 3A through F. Then we'll come back to the budget presentation. So right now, and also we do have to amend the agenda to add an agenda item under 2C3, which is a resolution, and I will read it at 2C3, and I will read it. Right now, that agenda item is upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education hereby appoints
Elena Coppis, Esquire of Coppis ADR and LLC as a special investigator counsel to conduct an investigation and render a report to the Board of Education in connection with the matter discussed in executive session at a rate not to exceed $300 per hour plus reimbursement for reasonable expenses. So that will be added to the agenda under agenda item 2C3. So at this point in time, the Board of Education can take any questions under agenda items 2A through E and 3A through F.
Hi, Wendy Canestro. What was that person's name? Elena, what was it?
The last name is C-A-C-A-V-A-S.
V-A-S?
V-A-S, yeah.
And what is it pertaining to in a general sense?
Exactly what I stated, that's all I can state to you.
Executive session?
Yes. I cannot provide any other information. It's pertaining to a personnel matter, so I cannot provide any.
Oh, that's what I want to know,
Yeah,
personnel
yeah.
matter. Okay,
Mhm.
no problem. That's really what I wanted to know. Okay. The other thing is, I have a question regarding agenda item 2E1. It's the resolution to abolish positions. There are no respective tenure areas listed on here. It's a blank resolution. You can't pass a blank resolution. There's nothing listed.
Hold on one second.
Sure.
Yes.
It's like the third page in.
Yeah. Yeah,
So if you read it, it says the Board of Education hereby abolishes the following positions in
Right.
each respective tenure area. You list nothing, so that's
right,
blank.
so the question, we do have the list of the names of the individuals. I don't believe, let me just double check, is that allowed to be given out? It's not allowed to be given out to the public, so.
But tenure areas are, you're allowed to say the subject area.
So this is the resolution that came from legal. So this is, we cannot reveal anything else except for what's here.
Okay, so I wish legal was here. Further to the point is, I don't see the district's RIF plan, which is a reduction in force plan, which is how you came about in your plan for the reduction in staff. Usually you pass a resolution with that when you're accessing staff. I don't see a resolution here, and I don't see the plan. Where is the plan?
We don't have that resolution. There was a process that was used, and I'll let Dr. Talbot finish. There was a process that was used, and it was done in regards to where they were in terms of seniority, and Dr. Talbot can finish up for me, but there was a process, and I'll let you go ahead and finish up, Dr. Talbot.
Sure.
Good evening. So based upon the programming for 24-25, some reductions were needed in particular areas. And all decisions were based around the programming and on the seniority list.
Okay, but you know that not all accessing is linear. There's sometimes sideways bumps. It's not just linear. It's not just that way. You know, somebody can go back to an old tenured area. So I guess I'm confused why that's not being shared with the public here. Like the plan, not the details of people's names, but like a plan. Usually there's a resolution for that.
There's no resolution for that, but there has been pre-planning to properly place those who are perhaps bumped accordingly when you implement accessing on a seniority list. So all of those components have been taken into consideration.
Okay, just further on this point, you list personnel in your reports, right, every month, but somehow you're not listing these people on this. So why is it that you're able to show terminations, resignations, retirements, but you can't show the excess people to the community?
So what we'll find, I will double check with legal, and if we're allowed to provide all the names of the individuals that will be accessed, we will provide it to the community at the next meeting.
Yeah, it just seems
Okay.
like you do that for this and
All
not
right,
for that.
we'll definitely
And-
follow up.
The last thing on this I want to say is that the Board of Education has final say on this. I would encourage you not to access all these teachers. There are other options. I did go through the budget. There is some fat to be trimmed. You know, you can't say that, you know, our scholars are great or place kids and exalt them to these great positions and that how much pride you have on them and then cut them off at the knees by taking away their teachers. It's up to you. I would urge you. I know accessing has to happen sometimes. It's, you know, a reality, but this is a massive accessing of something I've never seen of this size. And I would really urge the I would urge the board, excuse me, to ask administration to go back to the drawing board to look at other options than accessing dozens of teachers and staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions regarding these agenda items 2A through E and 3A through F?
Hi, Margaret Shuff, Amityville. Regarding the same agenda point 2E1, just exactly what the previous community member said. There's no number here. You have following positions, but not even a number, not following 10, not following 10, 15, 20. What's the number? If you're not going to name the people or the positions or the area of,
What I'll do when I get to that agenda item, I will tell you the exact number.
okay. And then having not a resolution in place is, you know, failing to plan is planning to fail.
Okay, thank you. Any
Yeah.
other
We've seen
questions
that
regarding the
numerous
agenda
times.
items?
Hello, good evening, Megan Messman. So when we were here on February 14th, there was a lot of community members here and the teachers were here, and we clearly stated, many people, that we did not like your plan to access all of these staff. Did you go back and reconsider an alternate plan?
Yes, so Dr., it was reconsidered, and based on what reconsidered, this is what we're staying with right now, excuse me. We're staying with right now.
So you have no transparency, again, exactly what they just said. We have no idea who you're accessing tonight.
So like I said, I will double check with legal, and if I can provide the names, I definitely will provide. the
I
names
don't
to
need
the
their
committee.
names, but like they said, how many staff members?
Like I
And-
said, when I get to that item, what I will do is that I will tell the exact number of individuals that are being accessed. So there's a portion where I call for motion, do first, do a second, and then I say, is there any discussion? During that time frame, I'll provide the exact numbers.
I believe somebody asked last time, like, what was the cost savings associated with this accessing? And there was no answer. Are you
So
able to
that's, so,
speak to that?
so not at this time, and we'll be able, if we don't speak to it at later on in the meeting, we'll address it definitely at the next meeting.
So the budget that you're gonna present tonight assumes that the accessing is gonna go forward, right?
The budget that we're presenting tonight, we're gonna go line by line by line, and you'll see the process when we get there.
But you're gonna vote and
We're
it's
gonna
based
vote.
on the accessing going forward.
We're gonna vote on what's on the agenda for that particular item for excess employees of the district, because they're not all teachers.
I don't think but the budget assumes the access.
Yes, I just said to you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
Yeah. Mhm. Any other questions regarding the agenda items?
I'm still trying to get an understanding of how these meetings go. This is my second one here.
Sure.
And the last time I was here, I asked a question that you said you wasn't gonna answer.
You just have to, go ahead.
I asked a question last time
Mhm.
and you said you wasn't gonna answer it. You were only answering certain questions. And I want to know if I can get that answer tonight. That question was, what happened to that 3.6 million? I'm stuck there with everything else everybody's saying about the teachers getting cut and everything and all of that stuff. You told me last time you wasn't gonna answer it. Are you prepared to answer that tonight?
All right, so when we get finished this portion, because we have to go through the agenda, and then we'll go through the budget. When we do the budget.
That's
that'll-
why I'm
yeah,
asking,
yeah.
because I don't know how
Yes.
your meeting go, but so you're gonna answer my question tonight? I ain't gonna walk out of here
If
without
not-
an answer.
If not me, then either,
Somebody, because the
Yeah,
last time I
yeah.
asked you, was the
Understood.
secretary and the treasurer here? You said, no, are they here tonight?
no, they're not part, they don't need to be here. They don't
If
need-
they here for,
They don't need to be
Hold on a
here for
second.
the meeting.
they were here at the meeting prior to this, right?
No,
They wasn't?
no,
How
we
you
don't,
have a meeting? You
we don't, so the way the school board is structured, your secretary and your treasurer are not here. So with the structure of a school board, you typically will have an assistant superintendent for finance and operation. You may have a director for finance and operation. That's the individual who oversees the whole process.
But-
Now, then also there's always a treasurer, there's other individuals, but those individuals are not required to attend
the
the
meeting.
meeting, right?
So that person is here tonight?
Yes, she was here last time.
Right, so then she could have answered the question last time. That was my point. But
Okay,
you said
so-
there was nobody here to answer that question.
No, you had asked me whether or not there was a treasurer here the last time.
Right,
So
that
we-
would have been the person to answer the.
So when we get to that portion of the meeting, the question, we have the question already, it'll be part of
Hang
it.
around and wait for that.
No, that's fine, it'll be fine. That's why that's why we're doing the agenda items first, and then we're going to take anything else regarding to the budget. We'll do the budget presentation.
Sorry, I came back.
That's fine.
Megan Messman. You said there was no other solution for the budget crisis. There was a specific question that said, why are you not putting a proposition in place to move the money out of the capital funding to put back into the operations plan and keep the teachers?
So when we get to the budget presentation, that'll be one of the things that will be discussed. Yes.
I think that there's other things that you're not thinking outside of the box and focusing on the students of this district.
So one of the reasons that we're doing the line by line budget presentation is because those of us that are sitting here at the table, we may be seeing it under a certain lens. Someone else may see something and say, well, did you think about this? Did you think about that? That's why we're doing it. That's why there are budgets out that way for, the line by line budget for everyone to take a look at. We're not professing to be the perfect one to give you all the answers. That's why we're doing this process. So therefore, we can hear your feedback in regards to the 2.5 million and 1.5 million. That will be addressed when we get to the budget portion of the meeting.
Okay, but you flipped the agenda, so you should have presented the budget first
You-
instead of
you
doing
still-
the vote on the abolishment
No,
before
you're
the
still gonna have.
budget. So you're not actually asking for the community input.
Yes, we are, because we're asking about these items, and when we get to the budget presentation, the community will be able to present, will be able to answer.
But you'll
questions.
already have made the vote on the abolishment.
We'll make a vote and we'll just go from there. Yes, we're gonna vote on those items. That's correct.
Thank
So. Go ahead.
Okay, I just have to address this. I'm the person that brought up about amending the proposition from last year as a
Right.
solution. It's a viable solution. And to the speaker, the previous speaker's point, and it's well taken. And I understand why you wanted to do the budget later, because you want to allow us to answer questions.
To ask questions.
Understandable.
Correct.
The issue is you will have voted on these accessing of positions. It's finalized, like you already did it. And then we're going to comment and we're going to have these great ideas, and you may think they're great ideas or you may not, but it's after the point, it's already done, it's finite. So again, so everybody could hear this, whether they're here or at home, there are other options that people have presented. You may address them and you may come up with it, whatever it is, but by not going through this first and you're it's like you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. We want to hear from you. You may have great ideas, but PS, we're chopping everybody on this block right now. They're out. And you can't really say that you're student-centric and students are scholars and we love our students and we stand behind our students, because to stand behind your students, you have to stand behind your teachers, right? Because kids can't learn without teachers in the classroom. The classrooms are already overcrowded. Teachers are already taking on one or two other periods. They're going to be burnt out. It's going to lead to more people leaving. And I'm just like having a really hard time with the Board of Education or a central administration that is not student centric.
All right, so I will say to you, and typically, you know me, I don't respond to comments because it's your time for individuals to speak. I think what's really important for everyone to understand, and people may not believe it, as we sit here, we are concerned about every single student in this district for their success. We're concerned about employees of the district, whether they're a teacher, whether they're staff, whether they're clerical, whether they're custodian, whatever their position they are in the district, we are very concerned about those individuals. What this Board of Education has done behind the scenes, looking at the budget, going through line by line, trying to figure out, is there anything else that we can do? So we have done our due diligence by looking at everything and trying to see if we can do something differently. So I can say to you that, yes, we do care about every single kid and every single employee in this district. We understand that, yes, there may be other options. We understand about the capital reserves. We understand about the 1.5 million that came from the general fund that came over. We're going to talk about all those things in a little bit. When it comes to the item in regards to the various positions, when we get to that point, there will be a vote. Either people are going to vote for it or they're not going to vote for it as a board. And that's where we're going to go from there.
Okay, I understand what you said. This is my last point to that. I believe that you care about students and teachers, but you didn't believe about it. You didn't believe in it so much when you overspent by $3.6 million. That's not believing in teachers and students. You are ultimately responsible for
Understood?
the overspending. And the central administrator putting items in front of you outside of their budget. So, you know, again, it's both sides of your mouth. You created this situation that we're in, so.
Right, thank you.
Gorbachev, Amityville. So you just, just talking about this conversation that just ensued. Basically, you just said you care about children left, right, and center. But for 2 years now, we've been asking to adopt 9150 as a policy, and you've pushed it off. You've pushed it off. I've emailed, asked. It's going to be at the next agenda, so on and so forth. So it's not here. You said last meeting, it's going to be in March.
Mhm.
So you don't really care because we've been asking
We,
for
we
2
do
years
care.
for the protection
We
of
do care.
children. You don't care because
We care.
obviously if you cared, you would have adopted an existing policy. All you had to do was mirror it, and yet you're
Right,
still
so what you-
slacking off again.
So thank you. Thank you. So we're gonna,
Hello, everybody. So we here tonight to discuss some issues for our community. The same token.
so just a couple things. If it's connected to the agenda item, then you can speak on it. So
Yes,
if it's not connected to anything that's on the agenda, then I can't take the comment right now.
So therefore, the board and the Board of Education here is to explain to us, to share with us what is their plan going forward and for right now. And we just sit here and give them a chance to explain how they're going to try to work out the problem that exists right now.
Right, so I appreciate your comment, and we don't mind, I would love to hear the comment, but it's gonna have to come after we
All
do.
right then.
Okay, thank you. So, right, so at this point in time, can I have a motion to approve agenda items 2A, 1, and 2? I know he's not well. He's not feeling well. Yes. Can I have a motion for agenda item 2A, 1, and 2, please?
Second.
So Leslie Kretz is first. Jeanette Santos is second. Any questions regarding these agenda items? Right. Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye, motion carries 5-0. Can I have a motion for agenda item 2C1, please?
So moved.
Carol Searle is first, Leslie Kretz is second. Any questions regarding this agenda item? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye, motion carries 5-0. We're now going to go over to the March 13th agenda to just review that agenda for that particular week. There's no voting that takes place on the March 13th agenda. Give me 1 second, please. Okay. So we're at the March 13th agenda. There will be another budget presentation. Any questions about agenda item 2A, 1, and 2 for March 13th? All right. All right. Seeing none, any questions regarding agenda item 3B1, which is the personnel report? Agenda items 3C1, A through F. Any questions regarding those contracts? The contracts are reviewed by legal. Any questions regarding agenda items 3C2 through 4? Right, seeing none, I'll move on. And any questions regarding the treasurer's report, which is 3D1? Seeing none, any questions regarding 3E1? And any questions regarding the approval of conferences? So I'm going to go back to the March 6th agenda. And can I have a motion to amend the agenda to add agenda item 2C3? And I will read the resolution again. Resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education hereby appoints Elena Kakavas of Kakavas ADR LLC as Special Investigative Counsel to conduct an investigation and render report to the Board of Education in connected with the matter discussed in executive session at a rate not to exceed $300 per hour plus reimbursement for reasonable expenses. If it's a matter that is discussed in executive session, we cannot provide information because it's a personnel matter. So we're not allowed to, by law, we're not allowed to give out any details whatsoever about this particular situation. So can I have a motion to amend the agenda to add agenda item 2C3, please?
So moved. Second.
Carol C. Hoff was first. Jeanette Santos was second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries 5-0. Can I have a motion to accept agenda item 2C3, please? Leslie Kretz is first.
Second.
Carol C. Hoff is second. Right, so I already read the resolution in regards to that particular agenda item. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 5-0. Right, can I have a motion for agenda item 2E1, please? No, 2E1. 2E1, can I have a motion for agenda item 2E1, please?
So moved.
Jeanette Santos is first. Jeanette Santos is first. Leslie Kretz is second. Dr. Talbot, can you just provide, based on that particular list, how many are custodians, how many are teachers, how many are guidance counselors? If you can just provide those numbers for everyone, what is the total number, please?
Sure. The total number of staff who are accessed are in the following categories: 25 teachers, 6 teaching assistants, 1 custodian, 2 security personnel, 6 PPS staff, 2 administrators, and 5 monitors, for a total of 47 personnel.
Thank you. So does the board have any questions regarding that information? Okay. So all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
One opposed.
So 4 yes and 1 no. Right, the motion carries. And so the yes are L. Johnson, Leslie Kretz, Jeanette Santos, Carol Seehoff, and the no is Juan Leon. Going to agenda item 3B1, can I have a motion for agenda item 3B1, please?
So moved.
Carol Seehoff is first.
Second.
Jeanette Santos is second. Any questions regarding the personnel action report? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 5-0. Can I have a motion for agenda item 3E1, please? Can I have a motion for 3E?
So moved.
Leslie Kretz is first.
Second.
Carol Seehoff is second. Any questions regarding this particular item? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye, motion carries 5-0. And can I have a motion for agenda item 3F1, please?
So moved. Second.
Carol Seehoff is first and Jeanette Santos is second. Any questions regarding these agenda items? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye, motion carries 5-0. We're now going to go back to the budget presentation at this time. So I'm going to turn the meeting over to Dr. Talbot.
Good evening once again to the members of the Board of Education, our esteemed colleagues, and our concerned members of our community. As we gather tonight to discuss the budget for the upcoming academic year, it's crucial to acknowledge the challenges that we faced in the past and the impact it has had on our staff and community. Last year, we experienced a significant deficit of $3.6 million, resulting in the unfortunate loss of many valued staff members. We understand the frustration and disappointment that has been felt within our community, and we are working diligently to address these concerns moving forward. As previously communicated, several factors have contributed to the operational deficit from the 2022-23 school year budget. These include providing services for students with special needs within and outside of the district, increased safety and security measures cost, increased charter school enrollment, and rising health insurance expenses, among others. Tonight's meeting marks the beginning of the discussion regarding the line-by-line budget. The board will engage in a thorough review process during tonight's work session, and afterward, we will open the floor to questions and feedback from the community. We will present the line-by-line budget for the 24-25 academic year, which currently stands at a 6.87% increase from the previous year. This is the gap we are working to reduce to meet the allowed 3.07% levy increase based on the 24-25 school year tax cap calculations. During our February meeting, we expressed our interest in meeting with community stakeholders about the state of affairs of our district, because your voice does matter. Some of you have graciously agreed to partner with us to host and facilitate community gatherings to discuss our current financial situation and ways to contribute to school improvement. We understand the importance of fostering open dialogue and transparency. As we come together as a community, let us remember the words of Helen Keller, who said, "Alone, we can do so little. Together, we can do so much." In the spirit of togetherness, oneness, and community, the board, my cabinet, and I will be discussing a plan to quickly implement a process for these meetings. Once again, I thank you for all of your dedication and commitment to our schools. Ms. Buatsi, Mr. Frazier, Board of Education, administration, and staff have worked so hard to bring us thus far in the budgeting process. Ms. Buatsi will facilitate tonight's line-by-line discussion, and I look forward to a productive and collaborative dialogue. We are listening, and we do hear you. At this time, Ms. Buatsi, if you would come forward and facilitate us in the process. Thank you.
So, Ms. Buatsi, before you get started, just as a reminder to our community members that are here, that during this process, this is a time where the budget is being presented to the Board of Education. This is a time where the Board of Education will ask any questions they would like to ask. Once we are done asking the questions, then I will open it up to the community, and they will be able to ask any questions they would like. Okay? So at this point in time, please don't Please hold on to your questions and you'll be able to ask your questions once we get finished asking our questions as we go on line by line. Thank you.
Thank you.
And so board members, if you have questions as you're going along, please just say something so I can acknowledge you and therefore your question can be asked. Thank you.
Thank you very much, President Johnson and Superintendent Talbot. What we are going to do is I've given copies of the budget to you, and the public also has the same copy. So what we're going to do is you will see that the numbers tied to what the board has as well as what the public has. And I'm going to go through the line by line by the heading of each part of the budget. And each part explains a certain type of expenditure. The first set of expenses has to do with administration, and administration includes the Board of Education.
So Ms. Barton, just one quick question as we go forward and as you go on page by page. As you do that, do you want us to ask at that point in time if we have any questions, any recommendations on that particular page? If there's none, then we'll go to the next one.
I think that's how, because otherwise it will be too long, and by the time I'm done, most of you will forget the questions.
Okay, thank
So
you.
when I finish Board of Education, I'll open it up for questions.
So just for clarification, are you gonna, you're gonna put it up and then you're gonna go over each line, or you're gonna put it up and then we're gonna ask our questions, just for
I'll
clarification?
put it up and I'll draw your attention to some particular spot or how we came up with the budget to begin with. And if you have additional questions, you can ask me or you can defer it to the end.
Okay, thank you.
So this is the glance view of the budget. Dr. Talbot mentioned the overall budget increase at 6.87. And this is tied to the drivers that we spoke about 2 weeks ago. I'm drawing your attention to the instructional programs. When we spoke the last time, we said one of the biggest drivers in the 24-25 budget was labor cost and instructional programs. If you look at this line alone, it makes up close to special education, regular education costs, and employee benefit alone make up about 85% of the budget increase of 7.7%. Board of Education is going down by about 11,000, and the rest of them are in line. This particular line is because we move an expense from another part of the budget into this code. So the first set of budget that we're going to talk about is the Board of Education. That is on pages 1 and 2 of the budget document that everybody has. The board is unpaid. However, when they travel, the district pays for the travel expenses. Given what we are going through this year, with the board, working closely with the board and the administration, you can see that the board's travel expenses has been cut by about 15,000 to 1,000. In the prior year, we had 16,000. We are cutting it down to 1,000. In addition to that, the dues for National School Board Association is being cut by $4,500. So you can see that the total budget, the total Board of Education budget is going down by almost $11,000. Any questions on the Board of Education?
Trustee Leon, please.
Hi, Ms. Bawasi, would you mind going back to the first page?
Sure.
First page?
This one?
Yes, so you see at the top where it says 8.58%? That's the percentage reduction of the budget line.
Yes.
Not the entire budget.
No.
Okay, so that was a little bit confusing because on the budget that we received, it says percent of budget increase, decrease.
Okay.
So that's strictly for that line.
Correct.
Right. Just so everyone knows, the Board of Education budget line makes up less than 1% of the entire budget.
That's accurate.
Yes. So on the next page, I do have a couple questions. So just so everyone knows, Ms. Bawatsi did have an hour and a half conversation with me, and we went through some of these things the day before the Super Bowl, actually. So thank you very much for that. I'm happy to see that the board travel budget has been reduced to $1,000. That means that the Board of Education is not going upstate for conventions and things like that, and that's the way it should be in this tough time. Something I wanted to say, and maybe for the board's consideration, is that those dues and memberships, I personally wouldn't mind suspending them for a year and coming back to that and revisiting that next year, such as Refit, Association for Latino Administrations, and so forth. The only one that I would say is crucial would be the New York State School Boards Association, because if you see it right there, no, I'm sorry, the one that's 12,200.
This one here.
Right, the New York State School Boards. That is essential because if you go up 2 lines, we actually use them for our New York School Board Policy Update Service. So we need that subscription, correct?
Yes.
So the only thing I would say is maybe for the board's consideration, suspending some of these other subscriptions and revisit them another time.
So, Trustee Leon, I do agree in terms of staying with New York State School Board Association because the information that we get is quite valuable. I'm okay with for 1 year not paying the dues to some of the other organizations. The only two that I struggle with is Refit is very instrumental in advocating for all districts on Long Island in regards to addressing the equity when it comes to, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Bawatsi, when it comes to how they calculate out the foundation aid. And
Correct.
because of the advocacy that Refit has done throughout the years, that's why there has been changes in the foundation aid. So does it mean if we're not part of, if we don't pay dues, does it mean that we won't get the benefit of it? We'll still get the benefit of it, but we won't be at the table because we won't be able to attend some of those events. When it comes to Nassau Suffolk School Board Associations, that's something right here on the island. And they also advocate for us a lot. One thing that's really good with the Nassau School Board Association is that they advocate for all the districts on Long Island. And one thing that's important is that when it comes to voting on different, not policy, but when it comes to advocating for different things in districts, like for example, right now, New York State is saying that all school districts have to have electric school buses by a certain time frame. I'm just using that as an example. So for Nassau School Board Association, if we're a member of that, we're able to attend the meetings and voice our opinion and just say, this is one of the things that we definitely want you to continue to advocate for. So that's just my only concern. And at that meeting, just last year, there was a lot of different resolutions that were placed on the table. And because of the support that was received by many districts on Long Island, That's what New York State School Board Association advocated for to our elected officials. So that's just one thing as a board. I'm just saying, the other ones, I don't mind for 1 year suspending them, but I think those two, at least the School Board Association and Nassau Suffolk School Board Association, that we hold on to. Once again, we can leave it as an option. And then as we move along, we can always say, you know what, we may have to go ahead and suspend it. So as we move along, let's put it down as a possibility, and then we'll go from there. So we'll say possible, let go of everything except for New York State School Board Association. And then we'll just say right now, the other ones will possibly remove, okay?
Okay.
Ms. Guanci, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other board members want to comment on this page before we move forward? Because I know we have a lot to go through.
Idea. Let's leave it as an option.
Okay. All right, so you can,
I
Go ahead.
think in this era where the safe harmless provision in state law is being deferred to other years, it is the financing piece becomes extremely important. I know Refit was extremely involved in changing the funding formula years ago. And in fact, the last 3 years, school districts all over New York State have benefited tremendously because of the advocacy they did. And it drove a lot of money into well-deserving school district over the years. So it's something that we have to always consider, especially in this time that most school districts, about half the school district in New York State, are having to deal with a reduction in state aid. This 2 budget code deals with the district clerk, the salary of the district clerk, as well as expenses for district election, including the advertising that we do for all the election and the storage, the moving of the voting machines. All those things are expenses that we incur. And these are standard expenses that we incur every year. But I wanted to draw your attention to this $6,000 increase. This is to buy iPads for the election. And this was recommended by the district clerk, and we are looking at this very seriously. This will make the process go very smoothly. Is there any other question on
Go
Board
ahead,
of
trustee.
Education?
Go ahead, Juan.
I have 3 questions. My first one is exactly which line item are we putting the iPads in?
Here,
I'm sorry, I can't do it.
you see
It
it?
says supplies of district elections.
Yes, supplies.
Okay, very good.
Is that something that we definitely have to do for this year? Can we hold off? I think maybe that's something we just, let's possibly consider as what, as an item to possibly remove. Okay, so. All right, so what our district clerk is saying to us that they will allow us to use it this year for free. Just have to speak into the mic. Right over here.
Okay, what she said is that they will allow us to use it for free in the coming election. But coming next year, we have to pay for it. But we also have to know that these are expenses that will be going through BOCES, and these expenses are BOCES aidable.
Right, so let's just make it as an option to possibly remove, and then we can always come back and look, because we have to go through the whole thing and we have to look at different things. So let's just make it as an option to remove. That's my recommendation.
Thank you.
Madam President, can I
Go-
ask 2
go ahead.
questions?
Mhm.
So, my first question has to do with the line item dues and travel district clerk. In 21-22, we expended $130. In 22-23, we expended $231. We had it originally budgeted for $500. I thought three, this is splitting hairs. I thought three would be good, but we put 250, which is very tight compared to the 230 that we spent last time. But if we're comfortable with that,
I'm comfortable with leaving it.
okay. Right, so my,
So we leave it at 250.
that's
Thank
fine.
you.
Right.
Yes, we have a long list to go through, guys. Keep going.
Right, so my second question was about the supplies in the district elections, but that was answered because I couldn't understand why the item was 7,700 when in the past we've spent 1,400 and 1,600. So thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you.
Right, just so the community knows, this is going line by line is a very tedious process. Very, very, very tedious. And so I will do my best to maybe move things along. The last time that we did this, it was 3 hours, right? So it was a very tedious process. So I know this is something it's something that you may not be used to, but this is, in order to really look at everything, we're gonna have to, go through this. So
So
go ahead, Ms.
to-
Watson.
to expedite the process, the next set of budget codes, we are going to combine them. And this is central administration. This is on pages 3 to 7. And it includes the superintendent of schools, the assistant superintendent for finance and operations, the treasurer, purchasing, legal expenses, personnel record management, and public relations.
Right, so a couple questions that I do have. When I'm on page number 3. So when we look at what our expenditure for 22-23, let's just say for the different cabinet level positions, and then we budgeted for 23-24 in terms of there was an increase. So no one received any increase in 23-24. So it was budgeted, but there was no increase that was given to any cabinet members for 23-24. So noted, it was there for 23-24, but there was no increase that was provided to any cabinet members for this particular year. So now we're up to 24-25, right?
Yes.
And we have the amount of 2,000, and we have an amount that's there. Under that, I'm under Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operations. So we have an amount of 2,006. So my only concern would be that if we budgeted, but we did not give it, because I think there's other things that we need to settle before we give anything. So can we remove it out, or is it better just to have it there but not give it like we did this year? So therefore, that's my question, because we can always take that to move it someplace else. So can we do that? Can we budget but not give it, because we did not give for this year?
Yes. If we leave it, it goes into fund balance.
Right.
If we take it, it helps us in bridging the gap
Okay.
that we are talking about. So it's a choice that the board has to make.
I
Either
don't
way is fine.
I don't mind leaving it, but not to give increases until we settle some other thing. That's just my opinion.
Thank you.
Any other comments before we move forward?
Any other comments?
On page number 4, it's towards the bottom. It is A 1310.49-09-63380, the BOCE Questar Fixed Asset Inventory.
Yes.
For 2 years, there was nothing there. For 23-24, we expended 5,049. Now we're budgeting 10,000. Can you explain why?
Yes. In our internal audit report, that was presented to the board by our district internal auditors, they mentioned that we have not done a comprehensive inventory of our assets for some time now. So this is monies that has been budgeted to do a comprehensive fixed asset inventory as part of our audit process. So, and it's BOCE-able. That's what we went through.
But when
BOCE.
it's BOCES aidable, it's not into the next year that we get the money back.
Correct. We pay for it in year one and get the aid back in year two.
Okay. Thank you.
What's exactly how much aid are we looking at?
It depends on exactly the item that we are talking about. Each category has its own aid ratio, some more, some less. So it is all determined at the state level. But because we have a higher aid ratio relatively to other school districts, we get more.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board on page number 4?
I had one question. 324, the contract services. Business office. All of them are.
Just
needed?
speak a little bit more into your mic because they,
Oh, all of them are needed? Ms.
Yes.
Potts, There's nothing.
You are
we
talking
can-
about these ones. Yes, the finance manager is the district financial software. That's what we use to process payroll and accounts payable and all that. Membership in ASBO International, that I took out. And then membership in Suffolk ASBO. We do learn a lot. That's for my office. And then we have printing of W-2s and all those other things as things that are required every year.
Thank you.
all right, so what, page 5?
These are our auditors. We have 3 levels of auditing. We have internal auditors. We have external auditors who audit our books at the end of the year. And we have claims auditors. And the claims auditors are the ones who verify to make sure that all payments that are being made by the district are approved and the numbers add up. External auditors, they verify to make sure that all the, they do this report at the end of the year. They look at our books based on a sampling basis. And the internal auditors, they delve deeper. Every year they pick a particular area and audit it and give the board a report.
All right, so I have a question on page 5.
Yeah.
Just for clarification, it's kind of midway under auditing. It says treasurer, professional and technical services.
Yeah.
So my question is that in 21-22 was roughly about $15,000. In 22-23, it was $137,000. And then now for 24-25, we're budgeting only for $50,000 roughly. So why did we go up, but now going back down? Are we going to be covered? That's my question.
Based on what we have seen, yes, we'll be covered. In fact, we included projected expenses for rating services because every year we have to go and borrow money and we get a rating done by Moody's or Standard & Poor's. In this case, it's Moody's. And the higher the amount of money that you're going to borrow, the higher the cost of the rating service. Here, what you're talking about was we got a large bill from prior year, and those things come through sometimes. Our bond council billed us for a large amount of money for the bond work that was done in 2016. And this is how this bill came about. It's part of this bill.
Okay.
So it's going back a couple of years. So going back to the president's question, we don't anticipate that any of those bills will be coming through, but we can't guarantee.
And on the bottom page going to legal, it looks as if 150, 400. It looks like we are paying, we're budgeting the same amount. I'm sorry, we're budgeting for 23-24 for general counsel and labor counsel. The total came to roughly about $400,000. So we're doing the same thing, but we just moved money around. And am I looking at that correctly?
Yes. If you look at what we spent for general counsel in 21-22, it was $321,000. And then same amount, similar amount in 22-23. So budgeting $250,000 what doesn't align with what we had in the prior year. So the whole idea here was to use the same amount of money and move the monies around so that we don't have to be doing budget transfers during the school year.
Does anyone have any questions on page 6? No, we just finished page 5. I jumped to page 6.
You have a question?
You have a question on page 5, Juan? No, yeah, I just kind of moved it along. So we're up to we're page 6. Any questions on page 6, anyone? Okay, so we can go, you go to page 7.
Actually, Madam President, I do have a question on page 6.
Go ahead.
And this has to do with what Ms. Johnson has said. So we see the salaries for administrators, right? Am I reading this correctly? I'm just saying, for example, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, there is no increase listed there. So does that mean there is no raise for the 24-25 year?
It is there because, so what happened was for 23-24, there was supposed to be a raise that was given. And as I stated earlier, central administration did not get any, we did not provide any raises for 23-24. So the amount that's there is quote unquote, the amount that they should have gotten if they got the raise. So all we did was just move it over to 24-25. And so once again, the decision will be made. Are we going to give the raise or we're not going to give the raise? So that's what that we're seeing there. So
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I'm misunderstanding something or if that's just not correct. Because on the original budget that was given to us earlier in the month, it just said human resources 192
Yes.
with a built-in $3,774 as an anticipated raise.
Correct.
Okay, fast forward to where we are now. It says 188, which is less with no built-in raise. Am I
Correct.
reading this correctly?
You are reading it correctly because in the 23-24 budget, a 2% was built in it and we did not receive it. So to go into the 24-25 budget, that is lost, more or less. So you can maintain the same amount of money with the 2% built in it. I hope I'm making myself clear.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have a $12,000. This code, 1480-490-906140 is for the district public relations services. See the amount going up by about $12,000 because it includes the cost of web hosting. That's why it went up to that $12,000.
right, so just, excuse me just a second, Ms. Bawati, just so the community knows what's happening over here. I was just talking to Dr. Talbot on the side. You can see this is a very long and tedious process.
Correct.
We also want to be able to receive some comments from the community as well. So what we were just kind of sidebarring over here, just so you understand, was that we're thinking about going to a certain time, getting questions from the community at this point in time, and then we can schedule another meeting on another day so that way we can continue it. That's number one. Number two, you also will have the opportunity to review this budget closer, and then when you come back, you may have some additional questions as well. So that's what we're just kind of looking at and just kind of saying, because if not, we could be here until 12 o'clock tonight doing this. So that's just a thought process, right? So we're going to continue to go forward to a certain time, roughly to about 9. And at that point, we'll take questions from the community and then we can reschedule again. All right, go ahead.
Can I
The
make a
next
comment?
couple, Go ahead.
Just one quick comment. My name is Carl Fraser, for those who don't know.
Just bring the microphone closer to you.
As Olivia goes through the budget process, I know we've been focusing on increases in various budget lines. But it's important also to note that because there has been due diligence going through this first draft of the budget, there are a number of lines that are less than what was budgeted. And that's because there were cuts going on during our review of this budget. So just don't focus on the increases, but also look at the reductions that have been taking place as we go through this process.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fraser. And the board was given a whole list of cuts that occurred among the cabinet members last Friday. Okay, this is going to go very fast. This is our custodial services. These are basically the salary of our custodial employees, the supplies that they use, the cleaning materials. I'm going to go through that very fast because as you can see, there are no substantial changes here.
And
Except
just so everyone knows, anything that's in parentheses, that's where there's
cut,
been a
okay.
cut, all right? So just if you, so when you see that, that's what that means.
And for a total, Ms. Watty, on page 11,
Okay.
you could also reflect the total decrease there for.
Yes, for
that
the
particular
buildings and
category.
grounds. This is what Dr. Talbot was referring to. If you look at our custodial services, the budget went down. Going back to what Mr. Fraser said, the budget went down by about $51,000.
All right. Does anyone have any questions about custodial services? I know there was certain equipment that we had previously bought, and that's on page 9 that we don't need to buy this year. And that was under Northwest Custodial Equipment. I know we have a lower fuel oil costs as well. And I know that we cut back on some personnel in regards to the number of hours that they will work in regards to security. I think it was I think director of security, so.
Yes.
Right, so let's go to page 12.
Okay. This is what Trustee Johnson is referring to. We had a safety and security personnel who was contracted from a private company, and he works 4 days a week. Last year, we budgeted for him to work 5. He currently works 4 days a week. The plan is to cut him back to 3 days a week, hence the $70,000 cut in that budget code.
Ms. Bawatsi, can I make a suggestion or a
Sure.
question on that? So, one of the things, and I just, going through this, looking at it, was back when we had our third-party audit come in and do their spot check.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that really resonated with me was lack of controls, okay? And now I say that because it looks like some of these budget items were budgeted well, but the controls just weren't there. So let me just give you an example. And I'm not picking on our security guards. I love our security guards. But if you look at the high school, for instance, in 21-22, we expended $96,000 on security. And then 22-23, we expended $434,000.
You are going to page 12, right? Let me open it up to.
Right,
This is what he's referring to.
right.
And this is the budget line that he's referring to, the high school. This is the line that he's referring to. He's saying actual expenditures in 21-22 for security at the high school was $96,000. And then it went to $434,000. That's
Right.
what you are referring to.
Right, which
Yes.
represents a 448% increase.
Yes.
So that's a spot that, we might be able to take a look at and maybe tighten it up, because that's not sustainable.
That's actually something, Mr. Leon, that we had already discussed in executive session, if you remember, that putting more controls in place.
Thank you.
Correct. So if we keep looking on that line, though, for instance, where it says currently actual expenditure right now, $189,000. Correct?
Yes, this is what you are referring to.
Right. And the total that we have budgeted for the year is 227,000. So
Correct.
right now, we have expended, I did the math, 83% of that.
Yes.
So if we are going to continue on that trajectory, which is $23,638 per month for security for another 4 months, putting us to June, that's a total of 94,000, and that would put us at 283,000, 25% over what we've already budgeted for this year.
I think going back to what Trustee Seehoff said, this was an area where we discussed extensively, and we have to look at what generated all those additional coverages that triggered those expenses. I think that's what you are talking about. That what you want, what you're saying is that we should look at what triggers those expenses and work to reduce them as we go along.
Right, that's correct, because we went over about $500,000 last year on that, so
Correct.
we can't do that again.
Thank
These salaries included the overtime for the security guard. These salaries that for the high school, the middle school, for the security guards, that included what we're seeing right here, the expenditures included overtime also. Overtime is not separate on the line by line.
No, but the overtime, it's all because
Yes,
of what we use our
I
facilities for.
realize, right.
Yes.
And I think, and Trustee Leon already said, security and safety of the school is important. But also there are different controls that were discussed that have been put in place. So the number may not, it may come close to the 227, excuse me. It may be 230, but it's not going to be way over if we did not put these controls in place. So it already has been addressed, and we will continue to be addressed.
And to Dr. Talbot, myself, and the cabinet has been meeting on a weekly basis with our security coordinator. And every schedule is looked at with a fine tooth comb to make sure that it addresses our need, it protects our students and our staff, yet we do it in a fiscally responsible manner. All these costs are items that come, and every year we have to, maintain our elevator and all that kind of thing. It's yearly things, maintenance that goes on every year. I think I want to draw your attention to this particular expense. This is the mascot and imagery on page 14.
Yeah, so currently we are part of a lawsuit, and other districts are part of a lawsuit in terms of trying to keep the Warrior name for our school district. And right now we have expended, I think, roughly about $15,000 or $16,000 $17,000 in legal fees. So just so the community understands that if we are not successful in this legal fight to keep the name Warrior, right? What's being shown here is everything that we have to do in the district in order to remove all the imagery or anything with warriors, any uniforms, anything that says warriors on it, anything that has the Indian head on it, all of that has to be removed, and it would have to be removed by the end of 2025. So we have to budget for it. So far, please correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Talbot, I don't think any school district in the state of New York has been successful yet in winning the lawsuit to keep any imagery or any name all right, connected to Native Americans. So our success in this may not be good at all, but we will go to a certain point. We're not going to expend a lot of money or whatsoever. I think we capped it off at either $20,000 or $25,000. So we're almost at the cap, but we have to budget for this because if it has to get done, we have to figure out how to do it.
And if you add up all this cost, it's about $195,000 here alone.
And Ms.
And this is also another unfunded mandate that the state is putting on districts to pay this. So we have no control over it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fraser.
Ms. Bawati, I just want to point out that the sporting uniforms, we will be required to come into compliance with those, but we have opted to implement that effective July 1. Right?
Of 2025.
Yes, let me just get clarity on this. I want to get clarity on the athletic uniforms because there's nothing there.
Yes, we
And
took it
we-
out.
Yes, we will continue to wear present uniforms for 24-25.
Yes,
And effective July 1, this will go into the 25-26 budget.
correct.
Correct.
So what we did was we removed about $136,000 from this budget and making sure that we will defer it to the subsequent year budget, which is 25-26.
Thank you, absolutely.
Because altogether, we're looking at about $336,000, which was a tremendous amount of money for us.
What was the cost about the uniforms roughly?
136,000.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Bawati, if I can just, I would like to just maybe just make a suggestion for consideration for the board. And that is, a little bit of the backstory. The New York State Board of Regents said that by 24-25, we have to comply with this,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
That we have to be, right? That we have to be warrior free.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Right. So here's my proposal, or something to think about. New York State also knows that we are in a financial tough spot. If New York State Regents would consider giving us a time extension to comply with this, it could free up $336,000 from this budget.
So
Is that possible?
Trustee Leon, it could be checked into, but this is an unfunded mandate and New York State has been very clear on the deadline of when this has to be done. So we can always ask them because it doesn't hurt to ask them.
That's all I'm
But-
asking for,
But we
just
can
an
we can
ask.
definitely ask the question, but the odds of them doing it
Yeah,
is slim to none, but we can definitely ask the question.
Right.
once again, trustee Leon, if you remember correctly, it was brought up with council during executive and he highly doubted that that would be allowed.
I don't recall discussing that in
Yeah.
executive.
Maybe you weren't there or you came in late that day.
Okay,
Ms.
but
Bawati, are
at
we
the
able
very
to
least,
move
it's worth it to ask, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
When we ask, can we just bring up the fact that we just had a champion, football.
So,
team.
so Ms.
Kansas City Chiefs.
Ms. Santos, let me just tell you
We
something.
can do that.
Ms. Santos, New York State has their guidelines, so we will take what Mr. Trustee Leon has said, and we can ask the question, all right? Okay.
I'm going to jump from this down to
Page 16.
page 16. Page 16 is data processing and printing. The only significant change here is that we had to move one contract from another code because BOCES changed the code. BOCES was billing us in this code, so it makes sense to move that expense to this code. So this is not a change. When we get to that other code, you will see that there's a negative number, which means that it was just a swap.
And why, for contract services and data processing, why do we now have a line of $71,000 and we never had that before?
Thank you. We have engaged an individual to be doing our data for us. If you recall, about 2 board meetings ago, we brought a contract for an individual to be doing the data processing for us. This is student data, analyzing it and giving us taking all the test results and analyzing it and giving it to both the administration and the Board of Education. Dr. Talbot, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think you explained it very well. As we're analyzing and looking at our infrastructure and building systems and assessing where we are, the area of data is an area that we really need to focus on and ensuring the accuracy of that. And so this year, someone has been working with us in that area, and we would like to continue to have that in place as we work to bring our data services in-house.
Thank you. The next section deals with our commercial insurance. Just like any business, we also go to the market to buy insurance. And our cost has begun to go up because of cybersecurity and to some extent, the district experience. And we were notified that our insurance next year will be going up close to 17 to 20%. If you look at this code, and this is one of the budget drivers that I mentioned in the last presentation, insurance, unallocated insurance. This is commercial liability, school board liability, all kinds of liability. And because of all the cyber attacks, the insurance companies have hiked their cost. The remaining budget code deals with BOCES facilities and rent expenses. Every component district in any BOCES is charged for all the capital projects they do, all the rentals they do. So districts like ours is allocated a pro rata share. And this is the cost that you see over here.
So I'm going to make a suggestion to my fellow board members.
Right.
That maybe at this point in time, we stop here. We can, on page 8, we'll stop here at supervision of instruction. This will allow community members who have questions regarding what we have presented on the budget presentation from 1 through 17. Dr. Talbot, maybe before we take any questions, maybe we can address about the capital, the 2.5 million that was voted on to move to capital projects from the capital reserve, and the 1.5 million that went from the general fund over to capital projects. So maybe we can address that. That would be one thing. And then we can take questions regarding what we just went over for the budget. Your questions and suggestions.
Sure. Thank you, Madam President. And the community had brought to our attention the question regarding the capital construction at Edmund W. Miles Middle School to transfer that 2.5 million from the capital reserve fund to the general fund, hoping to offset any potential shortfall from the 23-24 budget. We want to thank you for that question. Prior to it being shared at the board meeting, the board and administration were delving deeply into this because it seemed like a very key logical approach to close the gap and to save jobs. And I'm going to ask Mr. Frazier and/or Olivia to expound on it just a little bit so that we can clarify for the community as to why this is not a viable option for the district.
So, if you recall at the last budget vote, there was a proposition to transfer $2.5 million that was already placed in the district capital reserve in the at the end of the 21-22 school year, move it into the capital project fund for the purposes of doing the construction at the middle school. In addition to that, there was $1.5 million budgeted in the general fund, which will be added to this money to make a whole about $4.2 million to repair the the east side of the middle school building. If you recall, in December of 2022, we had a deep freeze, and the entire, all the 3 floors, all the pipes froze and broke. And we were lucky, kids were not in session, and the insurance company came in. Within a week, they put temporary HVAC system and were able to come back to school. Then in the summer of July of 2023, the company came back to put in permanent HVAC system in the classroom. We were able to change some labs in those areas. Now it came to the east side, because the east side will likely face the same thing, because if there's a deep freeze, so it was recommended by our insurance company to do something about the east side of the building. So last year, there was that proposition to move the monies to from the capital reserve to the capital project fund for the purposes of fixing the east side of the building. And there's this suggestion that we reverse it. We reverse the monies that was put into the capital project fund back into general fund for the purposes of taking care of the financial situation that the district is in. And what they are saying is that per Ed Law 3651, we cannot do this. We cannot move the monies that were placed in a capital reserve into an operating fund for the purposes of district general fund operation. That is a no. We cannot do that. The only way that you can use that money is to bring it back into, if you have any debt or serial bond sitting on your books, then you have to use any remaining monies in a capital reserve to reduce the debt. Am I right?
Correct. As a matter of fact, I can quote exactly from Ed Law 3651, Section 1. Voters are not authorized to transfer the money from the Capital Reserve Fund to the district's general fund or expend monies from the Capital Reserve Fund to general fund expenditures. That's the law.
Okay, the other remaining piece is the general fund appropriation, which was going to be added to the $2.5 million to make it up to $4.2 million for this project. Also, we will have a problem with that. If we decide to move the money back, what it will entail is that we will also lose the state aid that the district will get from this project, because the district gets about 60% building aid on every project that is done in this school district, because we have a high building aid ratio. You want to add something to that?
Well, just to say that any movement of monies from these monies, the $2.5 million, there's a tie-in with the calculation you do on the
Tax levy.
tax levy. Yes. So monies that are moved back into general fund has to be spent to reduce the debt, principal and interest on the debt we have. So this money will be part of reducing the exclusion amount in the capital levy calculation, meaning that because there's less expense, because we're moving this revenue to offset some of the expense, capital expense in that calculation, we're going to receive less of an increase in the levy based on that calculation from what it was in, well, I don't want to get too deep and confusing here, but we are going to receive less of an increase in the levy by applying a $2.5 million revenue to reduce the debt as we calculate the tax cap.
So just the $1.5 million that we moved from the general fund over to capital projects, that portion there, if we were going to reverse it, that would have to go by a vote to, it would have to be part of a vote to say, is the community okay with us moving that $1.5 million that came from the general fund? Are you okay with that? Are you okay moving that back from the capital projects over to the reserves? And if that, over back to the general fund. And if we did that, then the concern also would be that that would now also affect aid that we would get. So the state would say,
correct.
well, you know what? If you're going to move this 1.5 million back over to the general fund, so we're going to kind of deduct this. So let's say hypothetically, the state may say, we're going to deduct $1 million in any future aid that you get. I'm just throwing a number out there. I'm not saying that that's the case. We're going to deduct like $1 million. So therefore, if you're going to ask for aid of, if you're going to get aid of $4 million instead of $4 million, we're going to take away $1 million. So in some respect, you're going to get, so we can, but we just, as a board, we can't just automatically move the money back. That's the key point.
Correct.
Right.
That's number one. In order to move it back, it requires a vote that from the community that would say, you can move this money back. And we do understand by moving the money back, the impact will be da, 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 da.
Correct.
That's
So,
correct.
okay, that just,
Yes.
All right. So I think we're going to end here and start with instruction the next time.
yes. And then at this point in time, we can take questions. And I think, just hold on a second. All right, so at this point in time, we'll take questions regarding what was presented so far from page 1 through 17.
Hi, good evening. Danelle Cronin, Amityville. Just a quick question in reference to security, the overtime costs. Why would there be overtime costs for security?
So do you want me to answer? Do you? You can go ahead.
Sure. Overtime costs for security could vary in the following areas. When we have school board meetings and security is present, when we have family nights at the various schools and security is present, when our buildings are open on Saturdays and or Sundays, or anytime there's after hours or there's events. Sometimes we're able to schedule them where it may not require overtime, and then sometimes it does require overtime.
And also sometimes, like, for example, for some sporting events, like if there's a playoff game that was not expected, that's an additional time that was not scheduled.
Okay, that was my first question. I have so many, it's unbelievable. What is the actual, you had indicated, I'm referring to page, I don't even know what it is. Is it 10? It's under central printing and mailing contract services of $71,000. So we did not have somebody in that role previously and we hired somebody for that?
Yes, this is the.
Just speaking to the mic.
Sorry.
Is
This is the
page
data
10?
processing position that I had mentioned earlier. Yes, there was no one in that position.
There is no one in that position currently.
We just hired someone to do it.
And what is the responsibilities of that person, that position, just one more time, if there could be a little bit more explanation, whether from you or from Dr. Talbot or whoever oversees that?
Dr. Lang, can you explain what Jane will be doing?
Yes, certainly. One of the chief operations of a school district is to report all data to the state education department. And it goes from level 0 to level 1 to level 2. And that process involves our attendance, our academic success. It involves all aspects of what we do. And it's done through this particular individual who will sort through the information and make sure it's absolutely.
And who was doing this prior to the addition of this person of a budget line of $71,000?
No one for a period of time, and then prior to that, the director of technology.
Which we don't have a director of technology, correct? Okay, thank you.
Hi, I appreciate you answering questions. I did submit some questions via email. I never got answers to them. I followed up twice. I didn't get any emails. And I know you said we're allowed to email, and your chain of command does say business official and superintendent. I was not answered to the, I just want to point that out. A couple of things regarding security and these costs and the concern for costs. Your auditor pointed out that there was no documentation for any security overtime. So there was no control on that. And I know that we keep talking about the drivers, but your management letter from the independent auditor did say it was because there were loose to no controls and the budgeting didn't go well. I know that you
That's
recognize it now, but
exactly.
I mean, I think that we have to be fair and say that. Okay, a couple of things. I'll just go in order. First of all, 6.87 budget to budget's pretty high. I think we could do better on that. The first thing is the Board of Education, page 3. There was a $900 budget line. You went over it by over $14,000. I mean, if the Board of Education doesn't understand their budget amount and is approving things that apply to this budget line, that's the first red flag.
So
Like, you
just-
guys have to
just-
do better with
Just
that.
pause it for 1 second. Are you talking about the first line that says contract services and board education?
Yeah, I understand it's for NISBA.
No, that
Was that for NISBA?
No, that was connected to one when we did the search, the superintendent search. So it came from that
Oh,
line.
you,
And then we
that's in
also,
there?
yeah, and we also had a board retreat with Erase Racism, and that also came from that line as well. So that's what
Okay.
that was about. And I'm not too sure where, if the money was moved from one line within our.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I just feel like the board should be conscientious of their own line.
Oh, yeah,
But-
definitely.
But to go back to like the retreat that you had, that was only October. That was $2,000. You didn't need to do
No,
that.
not-
That's
not
something.
that one. There was another one that we did.
Oh, okay, but you still did approve that. You could have foregone that. Okay, let me go to line, let's see, sorry. The treasurer, oh, page 5, I don't know if I heard this correctly from Ms. Biswatsi. You said that there's no guarantee, something about the invoices and you aren't sure, but I guess I'm gonna
Yes.
ask, why aren't you gonna encumber that? If
Oh,
if you're not sure, why aren't you encumbering it?
I have instituted anything, anybody purchases, they have to encumber the funds ahead of time. But if it preceded me,
Oh, okay, so you,
That's
it
the
might
thing.
not be, have been encumbered then, is what you're saying?
correct.
Okay, I understand. Okay, let me just go on. Like, on page 7, it says it includes the web posting. Can't, no offense, the district clerk or like the third-party technical people do that? Like, why are we paying extra for that? Don't we have people that could do that so we don't have to include, the fee doesn't have to go up $12,000? We could get somebody that's already here doing that to update the website? I mean, like post things
So-
and thing? Am I
so-
understanding that wrong?
So just kind of pause the clock. So that's connected to the syntax, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
So that's connected to our syntax and the
Yeah, but-
contract that we have with syntax and some of the responsibilities that they have. There's certain things that that I think we do put up on the district website ourselves, but there's other things that Syntax is responsible, for doing.
Okay, I understand. So on page 10, BOCES, like this, you're paying, I know you were paying $175,000 for this outside safety management firm and you're reducing it. Why can't, I know we don't have a director of facilities because they resigned, but why can't we assign that to somebody already? Put it into there. I mean, paying them an additional like money towards that, say, give them $10,000 or $20,000 is a lot cheaper than paying $105,000 to add it onto their responsibility.
So, Dr. Talbot, if you want to answer, what is the role of the individuals in those positions? You know?
So the company that we contract with for security services would be different from the director of facilities because he would manage facilities and the safety measures around facilities in terms of care and maintenance. This particular organization works with us on security protocols, and they provide an individual who is here with us in district to assist with safety plans and things of that nature.
I understand what you're
Emergency
saying.
response.
I understand what you're saying, but there are, districts do have that responsibility to people that are already here, like they're already are salaried. And if you could, okay, thank you. I am almost done with this. I mean, I know we're gonna go over things. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
I hear what you're saying, but I
You know
think
what I'm saying?
also,
It's cheaper to pay a site, like an extra 20,000 to give somebody the responsibility than pay 105,000. They can go to the training and they could be the person.
but I think some of the concerns that we have as a board is that safety and security is such a huge issue through districts, through the United States. And there've been so many times when there's been someone that's come on the school grounds and they've shot, the kids, they shot the
I
teachers and
understand.
stuff like that. So this person in its position also has access to certain information that someone, if we pay them additional $50,000, they won't have access to that type of information. So that's the other reason that we're doing that. So it's something that
Okay.
we can definitely take into consideration, but that was the reason why we're holding on to that person.
Okay, I think I only have two other things. As far as the 1.5 million, what you said, it's interesting, the putting it on the proposition, but here's the deal with that. You're saying, but then we might get $1 million less state aid the following year.
That
I
was just
understand,
an example.
but I'm just saying, if that's the example, that's future. 1.5 million can save a lot of jobs. It seems like a no-brainer. We would go to the community, put it up to the community. It's really to save jobs at this point.
And that's what we as a board would have to consider. It's information that, we just received recently. We'll hear from the community. And if this is something that it seems like the community wants, then it's something that we can consider. And just as long as the community completely understands the
Yeah,
impact.
I think you could push that information out. Just two other things. I thought I heard the gentleman say the 2.5 million can only be used to pay down debt services or something, but I'm looking at the debt services and it's a lot. I mean, we have a lot to pay down, so I'm not sure why we wouldn't do that, I feel like you should do that. We can't depend on like future things. You have to work with the budget now and like get us out of the situation. And what I'm going to say is, and as you know, I say this all the time, when I come up here, I ask questions and I may criticize, but it's always within the elected role or within, in a professional matter. I never go after anybody personally, but I do want to just bring this up. At the last meeting, you contracted for a financial consultant, which I'm assuming is this individual. And my understanding is he's not a CPA. He's a retired business official. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. So my question is this. We already have a business official retired from another district, current business official. We paid an auditor, an independent auditor, internal and external, that pointed out all the deficiencies, all the problems, the no controls, the loose controls, the recommendations. I'm unsure why we're spending, when we're in a financial crisis, $15,000 for a business official to watch another business official, when really it would have probably made more sense to expand the independent auditor who's a CPA, who's independent and is already familiar with the books. But I'm not sure what they could tell us that's different, because you already did it. you know, you already did your budget, you weren't sure, the auditors picked everything up. So we know what it is now. Like, we're paying a business official all this money. We're paying them all this money, but now we're paying somebody else to do the same thing.
Do you want me to respond? You want? All right, so there's a couple things, and then I'm
Yeah,
gonna leave you
sure,
here.
sure.
So a couple things. So some of the reasons that as a board, we made a decision to do this was because we wanted to make sure that as the budget was being worked on, that there was another set of eyes that were taking a look at it. In terms of our internal auditors, they only will do certain things. All right, and so unless.
But you
well,
could have
let me-
expanded it.
Let me finish. So what happens, the internal auditors, when they do their audit, they focus in on certain areas. So they have expanded and they are doing a more in-depth look at certain things, right? There are other things that the Board of Education, and I can't speak about it right now because we have to make a decision on it. There's other things that the Board of Education is looking at as well. What's most important to us as a board, as for the community as well, whatever budget that we put up, there has to be a trust. And there's answers that the community wants in terms of what has happened. That's what we're currently working on. We're working on making sure that we get all very clear answers before the budget budget vote takes place. Because if the community does not have those answers, it would make it very difficult for any member of the community to say, you know what, I'm going to support this particular budget. So the other part that we're looking at, as soon as we make a final decision, we will let the community know what that last portion is. So that's why we as a board made a decision to have someone else work with Ms. Bawatsi, right? The person is I hear what you're saying. This person is working with, so therefore we could say to the community, at least for right now, we do have another individual who's working with her, giving another set of eyes on the budget. So that's the reason
Yeah.
that we did it. Other people may not agree
I
with us.
understand, and I appreciate you saying that you have to build trust with the community if you want us to support the budget. Two things on that. If it's a professional service, the controller's office says you don't have to have an RFP, but districts have to come up with their own process. I'm not sure if you guys even realize Amityville's process is to get an RFP, which didn't happen, which wasn't publicized, which didn't happen in public.
So it's something that was checked out and we were able to, we did
Okay,
not
there's a
have to do it.
workaround?
Yeah, we didn't have to do RFP. So I'm not trying
Okay,
to be.
can I,
but
I just want to make one suggestion. I would really encourage this board, because it's like such a mess, to get a forensic auditor. I think that would build the trust of the
So-
community.
So, being that you've just made the statement, that is one thing the Board of Education
Excellent.
we've received some information. We're looking at different companies and we're going to make a decision in terms of what company. I didn't want to say it, but that's
That's
what.
okay, but I will tell you, I think the whole community would support you getting a forensic auditor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say first and foremost, I'm a retired educator.
Can
and
you
it's-
just bring the microphone a little bit close. Thank you.
I'm a retired educator, and it's very sad to me that, you know, the makeup of the loss, the $3.6 million, is on the backs of teachers. And I just think it's deplorable for whatever it's worth. On page 2, and I'm also a retired union officer, so I'm aware of both sides of the fence. On page 2, I know Trustee Leon made a suggestion to suspend those dues. It's not a lot of money.
It's on page 1, you mean?
Page 1, yes.
Actual page
That, thank you. It's not a lot of money, and I don't think the community will have a vote, but I just need to put my 2 cents in. These organizations are important, and I don't think we should suspend dues to them next year. And the other question, I have a question regarding the iPads. Why do we have to purchase iPads? I know you spoke a little bit on it, but I missed it.
So
This is
Dr.
on
Talbot, if
page
you
2.
want to address that in terms of, I think it was iPads for election.
Okay.
iPads for,
But
There-
why do we have to purchase them is my question.
we don't have to. We don't have to purchase them, but they do work in synchronization with the BOWL system.
Understood, but why do we have to purchase them? Because that's an extra cost is my question. I'm familiar, So I don't want to belabor the point,
Yes.
but I'm just asking, why does the district have to spend money on purchasing those iPads?
Right.
That's all.
So it's one of the things that when we got as we looked at it, and that's why we made a note,
Mhm.
possibly remove.
Okay, okay. On page 5, the audits, internal auditors. Who are the internal auditors and how are they chosen?
Go ahead.
The internal auditors are chosen through an RFP process. And currently they are Naraki and Smith. That's the name of the company.
How come we have never considered, I don't know, I'm just asking a question, members from the community? We have a pretty well-educated community who can do the internal audit. How come? Is there a law against us using our own people to do the internal audit, not the external?
When the RFP is issued, it has certain stipulation, and those stipulations have to be met by the committee that selects that company. And I wasn't here when the RFP was put together. So next time when the RFP is put together, it's open to everyone. Everyone in the community can apply. And if they meet the qualification, they can be selected.
Okay.
So
Because I really don't think, this is my observation, and I'm new to public school students. I'm fighting for my grandchildren because my daughter and son has decided to put their children in public school.
So just one in regards to the internal auditor and the question that was posed, but not connected with the internal auditor. What some districts do with their audit committee, right, that's when they have community members be part of the audit committee.
Fully aware.
This district, I would say as far back as I can know, the audit committee has always been the Board of Education. That's something that as a board that we can relook at for
I
next
think
year.
you ought to,
And
because it
then-
will also help with transparency,
Right.
which is part of the problem
Mhm.
that we are facing right now.
Okay. That's what I said, yeah. It's always, but my board member was just saying that it's always been the board, but once again, it's something that it doesn't hurt to take a look at it, to look at something different.
It has
So-
always been the board, but I also know that school districts have community members as part of that committee.
Yes, that's correct.
So I
Yeah.
know that to be.
Yeah,
And
and I know
again,
that
it
as
helps
well.
with transparency in terms of the school board
Yeah.
and in terms of the community,
Right.
and it bridges that gap.
Correct.
I also would like to say that I think this board should do more work in involving community members to be active on subcommittees and attending this meeting. Thank you
So
very
that,
much.
that was one thing that I think, and you can correct me, fellow board members, I think it was roughly about a year and a half ago. We did make an effort to have some committees, and they would be there would be committees that would be charged with certain responsibilities. So we started the journey, and then there's been a transition. So it's something that we have not forgotten about and that we will definitely revisit again. So it's something, and it allows, like you said, not to cut you off, but allows, like you said, when there's more community members that are involved in the process, one, they have a better understanding, and then they also can go out to speak more in the community. So it's something that we have not forgotten about as a board, and that we will definitely.
And my last
Initiate.
comment, then I'll get away.
Just microphone, just.
Oh, sorry. I think the board also needs to do a better job at being more inclusive. The community has changed, and I really do not think, as I look around on a daily basis, I've been through this. We don't do enough work to include our Latino population. And if it means sending out flyers, don't tell me about the computer, because a lot of our Latino families are not involved in the computer. I know this for a fact, and we need to do a better job in involving them because they care about their children too. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, Danelle Cronin. It's not related to the budget, it's related to the calendar. There was a mistake in the calendar indicating the trustee votes and the voting for the budget. How is the board going to go forward to inform the public of it's in the calendar that went to everybody's home?
So, on the hard calendar, there was a mistake that was made, and what's being addressed, I think is going to be placed on the website. So it's going to be placed on the website. I know that, Melissa had reached out to me as well as Dr. Talbot. We're just making sure that everything is correct and accurate before it gets placed on the website. That's number one. And then we can also look at other ways we can let the community know that, because if someone does not look at the website, they're not going to know.
I mean,
So
I am flanked by two neighbors that are in their 90s. They're not looking at the district
Right.
website, but they are taxpayers. So
Right.
I would maybe suggest a mailing,
Okay.
some way to, yeah, or not the record, a mailing. Got to
yes.
go to their houses.
Okay.
They pay taxes. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Good comment.
School board, I'm pleased to be here. It's been a long time since my kids were in school here. And I just have one simple
Just give your name.
question. My
Just
name
give-
is Jim Kohler,
Thank you.
38 Avon Place.
Thank you.
Okay. We've reduced in a vote today the number of employees. But when I look at the employee benefits, there's a $1.5 million increase in employee benefits for the upcoming year. So if we've reduced our employees, I would think that proportionally there would be a reduction in that number. That's $1.5 million. It's a 7.5% increase.
Good question.
Sure. So for the 24-25 school year, there is a 10% increase in health insurance. And I would ask Ms. Bawatsi to elaborate on that further for you.
Yes. That is one area that everybody, we all know, has been going up tremendously, even for the people all those people who are not excess. The
Shop it around.
percentage
Shop
increase.
it around. If insurance prices go up, shop it around.
The district belongs to night shift. And night shift is a plan that is offered through the state. And it's a very big consortium, and they do give us a very, very good pricing.
It doesn't seem very good. It's gone up $1.5 million.
It's something that is all over the country.
And I just wanted to make one comment. I'm a businessman. I have personal relations here in the village for years. My father was a graduate of the class of 1942. My mom graduated from here. My kids went here. They've all been high achievers from Amityville. But a key to being a high achiever is to keep the people who push the plow, the teachers. So there's got to be a way to keep your people. You don't want to alienate your people, because psychologically, if you want to recruit new instructors over time, they're not going to want to come here. So you're not damaging us now, you're damaging us in the future. And that applause should really be directed to Juan Leon, who you were the only person to vote no in eliminating the teachers and the other employees. This vote might have been a lot closer because Dave left. Maybe Dave would have voted no. So then we would have had 4-2, and then one other person changes and it's 3-3. So there are ways to properly run a business. You're business people here, and I hope you have an opportunity to shine, because that's what we need. Our district has always, our village, our hometown, my hometown, has always been maligned by the school district, the school district, the school district. So we have to increase and have ourselves shine, not be tarnished. And this really tarnishes us, this whole thing with laying off people. You keep the people. If there's any comments, on.
No, no, thank you. We heard you. We heard you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to go back to the 1.5 million. Do you think, as a board, that you could have held off on this accessing vote until you as a board decided if you were going to go ahead with that proposition and put it on the ballot and perhaps accessed if that proposition didn't pass? Do you think that was a premature vote?
Does anyone want to answer the question? Yeah, so so to answer your question, I will just respond for myself. So I will say to you that for right now, I'm okay with the vote that I made.
Okay.
As we move forward, right? And if we make a decision to put that on the ballot, that's one thing. And if it passes, then the next thing that we would do, we can always then return to, then hire some teachers back. So
Okay.
we still have a little ways to go.
Okay, I hope that happens.
So, because the other part too is
Yeah.
that when you don't notify these individual special teachers, they don't have an ability to possibly get another job.
That's
So
it.
if we say that, you know what, we're going to hold off, then they're struggling with, well, do I look for another job? Do I not look for another job? And this is the time that anyone that is being excess needs to look for another job. So that was the other consideration. And for me, I'm not speaking for anyone else, in doing it now, because if we're not able to retain them, then I want them to be able to get employment someplace else. So
Okay.
that was for me.
I understand that. 3 quick questions. When somebody has budget questions, I'm asking you, are people going to answer these emails? They have not answered my emails. It's been answered already tonight because I'm here, but I have answered and I followed protocol exactly what you said. I'm very respectful in my questions and I can't get answers. So when you say you could always, and it's very commonplace for districts to have taxpayers ask questions on the phone, in a meeting, by email. It's problematic when you say build trust or transparency and then you can't get an answer.
Okay, so I think that with with the question that I believe that you had, and maybe what we should have done was acknowledge that it has been received and will be answered at the March 6th meeting. So I
Something is
make it-
better than nothing.
Okay.
2 other things. In May 2023, every election, the board has to certify the votes and accept them. Your resolution from 2023 is blank. There's no recording, there's no votes, there's no tallies, nothing on the budget, nothing on the proposition, nothing on the people that ran on any of the candidates, nothing on the absentee ballot. I want to point out that I did send the question to the district clerk and it was treated as a FOIL. This is public information that should have been on the resolution. The resolution needs to be updated on your website.
All right, I will, Melissa made me aware of that.
Okay,
this
thank
morning,
you.
so I will follow up on it because when we did do the vote that night, there was a resolution, so I
Right.
don't, I'll
Right,
following up.
Yeah, no problem, but I'm just saying, I FOIL and I know what's appropriate FOIL, and just asking that question wasn't a FOIL. The last thing, 2 other things. Policy 9150, for anybody who doesn't know, there's been a lot of sex abuse cases across Long Island, like $65 million has been paid. I'm not suggesting that it's happening anywhere in Amityville at all. But they did put a policy in place to protect children, and it lays out the parameters, the expectations, the training that goes with it, with all stakeholders, and the consequences. I've been asking since August 22 for this to be adopted. Gercio is also representative counsel to Babylon, and it protects children. So I always talk about children first, right? So if we're here to protect children, it's been a year and a half. I just can't wrap my head around why you won't do that.
So, and I think Ms. Schuff had addressed.
Yeah, you said in the future, but the
No,
future is like
no,
in a
hold
year
on
and a
second.
half.
So Ms. Schuff, excuse me, had addressed something. So the community knows this is a policy. So as part of the policy committee is that we as a board, well, 3 members from the board, along with the superintendent, review different policies. And so last year we reviewed a policy, all right, that was similar. You see me doing similar to the 9150, right? But and then that's what we kept with. Then it was brought back to our attention again. We looked at it again and we said, you know what, we will go ahead and we will do 9150. we have not had
I,
another.
I remember you said you
Yeah,
would do it in
yeah,
October at the
right.
meeting, but
Yeah,
that was October and here we
But
are.
we have not had another policy meeting since the last time that we met here in Park Avenue.
But you
with ev-
said that you were going to recommend it to the board, so all you're doing is recommending to the board and putting a first
Right,
reading on the
exactly.
agenda.
But on the same token, as a policy committee, we have to meet to say, do we definitely?
Okay.
So, yes, so we.
So I hope that you'll do that
So
soon.
I'm trying to keep going.
No, I just said, I hope you do that soon.
Yeah, so our goal is to have another policy meeting. We were supposed to have one, I think it was last week, and I was sick. So that took.
And I hope that will be done in public. The very last thing I have to say is, when I moved here, school board elections, it's like, sometimes Amityville could be a strange place, right? But it's like pretty personal and brutal here. And there's like a lot of attacks and a lot of fake profiles and really crazy things go on here. Not that I've necessarily seen in other districts. I've been doing this for a very, very long time. And it seems that community members who want to get involved should get involved, right? Because you're not really running against somebody. You're running for children and you're running for taxpayers. And you hope that the people that are running have no agenda other than that. The agenda should be children and taxpayers. And I've spoken to so many people throughout the years, and they say, I can't go against this name or this family, or this one's friends with this one because of their social settings. And I really think there's a need to eliminate that. So I'm just gonna wait till it's done beeping. I just want to
So,
tell you.
I'm just gonna ask you just to wrap it up.
I'm wrapping it up. I'm going to be submitting a petition to go on the ballot this election. I know your council has to review it, to change Amityville School District to an at-large voting, which means that instead of picking somebody's seat, I have to go against Lisa Johnson or Ms. Santos. It's the way the village runs, it's the way democracy runs, top vote getters get it. It eliminates all the personal aspect so people could talk about their platforms or their ideas and get away from the personal attacks. So I'm going to submit this to your district clerk. I know it has to be on review. I really tried to button it up so it wouldn't be rejected in any way, but I want to let the district clerk know I'm going to be giving this to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Richard Hobson.
Just speak a little bit closer into the mic. Yeah.
Richard Hobson, my address is on file. My question was from page 5 of the central administration when it came to the treasurer's professional and technical services. There was a 7-year-old bill that was paid?
No,
No?
it was.
Just speaking to the mic, Ms. Watts,
Thank
please.
you. It was a bill from prior year, but it's not necessarily 7 years.
Okay, so in other words, it was maybe 2 administrations before?
Correct.
Okay, so in other words, if I go back, not calling any names,
But this,
No, no, my question-
that was 22, these 22, 23 were the outstanding bills.
I thought they said it was about 6 years ago.
No, it was, it was in 22,
23.
yeah, and 23.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. And this superintendent was not here, correct?
No.
No,
Right, she came here in,
August 1,
that's right, I see.
19
And I think you're
2023.
doing a beautiful job. Accountability. Accountability means a lot. My other statement is, I heard they said something about Mr. Leon was doing a great job, but let the records reflect. A few years ago, Mr. Leon tried to take credit for the actions of all these board members. End of comment.
Thank you.
Well, Madam President, I'm not really sure what he's referring to, so.
That's why I just, if he wasn't gonna end it, that's why I was gonna end it there. Okay, so.
Margaret Chuff, Amityville. Discussing the statement from the superintendent regarding the charter schools, that blaming the 3.6 million deficit on the increase in charter schools, and it was like, I don't know exactly the number, but you said it was like 20,000 per student.
Charter school tuition?
Well, why it was, we're paying for all these kids leaving the district and going to a charter school. And you said it was at like 20 grand a kid.
The tuition is approximately 20,000 per child.
Okay, which the state really follows and pays and what have you.
No, the
Well,
public
it-
school
I mean, it
district
comes-
pays.
Right. How much is it per student in district?
It varies. per
Give me an
pupil.
estimate.
It varies. So anywhere from what, 22 students with special needs or slightly higher.
Give me an estimate of the average cost per student.
I gave it
Please.
to you and I said approximately 22.
Oh, I thought you said 22 special. I did, okay, so it's, and what's the, charter school?
Approximately 20,000 plus additional cost.
Right, so if they were in school, it was 20 grand, and if they were out of school, it's 20 grand. So there's no overage of blaming
So
the
when
charter
you're-
school kids.
We're not blaming.
I'm not blaming, but
parents
you're
have-
blaming the 3.6
No, we're not blaming.
You
We're
did say it.
simply
It was the
identifying for you
You said it was
some
an
of the
increase of
budget
charter
drivers.
school
So,
kids.
Ms.
So
only
in the
one person
school
at a time,
district,
please.
We budget for a particular number of students to attend a charter school. It's a variable because you don't know how many children are going to attend.
Right.
You can project based on a trend or a pattern. And so more students than what were projected went to the charter school.
Right. So it's either pay me
And
now,
so
pay
the-
me now or pay me later.
Yeah,
It's-
so
it's
the
almost-
money comes
it's
out
almost
of the
same
budget.
cost. It's almost the same cost.
No, because the money comes out of our budget and goes over to the school.
So-
If the students were here, that money would stay physically here in our school, in our budget.
So you'd
If
be
some,
paying,
if
you'd be
someone,
paying for them in the school, and now you're paying for them to be out of the
right, but,
school.
go
So
ahead.
you have a certain line item like we're going through tonight. And for charter schools, we have gone from about 35 to 55 students in 2 years.
55 students.
To about 55 students over the course of the last 2 years. But I think in last year's budget, we may have budgeted for,
Budgeted for about 35, and then it came out to be about 46.
okay.
Hence the variance that you're talking
Yeah,
about.
so that's the delta between the 35 students who were budgeted for and the 46 who actually attended. So that's one of the budget drivers that impacted the deficit because it was an over expenditure.
Not by a lot, not by 3, whatever.
Thank you.
R. Hobson again. My statement is to,
Excuse me.
So,
my
so,
statement.
so,
Madam
Miss-
President,
my-
does this have
Miss-
any
Miss-
bearing
Miss-
on?
Mr.
Hobson.
Hobson, I'm just gonna respectfully request, if it's referring to one of the trustees, I don't want to go, I don't want to do that, so.
Go
can-
back and forth.
Yeah, I don't
understand.
want to go back and forth. So if you have a question regarding the budget, if there's a general statement that you want to make, that's one thing, but I don't want to go back and forth.
Okay.
If you want to talk to him one-on-one afterwards.
There's no reason. He won't remember the
That's
conversation.
fine. I'll be here afterwards.
All right,
Rick.
so
That's
that's,
fine.
He won't remember the conversation.
okay, so that's
I won't
okay.
remember the
Okay.
Thank you.
My statement to the clerk, if you look back in the records, you'll see that at one of the meetings, I presented one of the Amityville flyers. And my question also was there permission for any individual to use the photos from the district and take credit for the actions of the whole board? That's
Okay.
my statement.
All right, thank you.
That's it.
Thank
So
you.
any
Now,
other?
now, Madam
any
President,
other-
I have to respond to that.
I-
So
Mr.
Richard,
Leon, can I just?
Richard's actually
Mr.
incorrect.
Mr.
on
Leon,
that.
can I just?
So
Mr.
actually,
Leon
what
and
it-
Mr. Hobson,
you're correct,
please,
sir.
please,
You could-
please. So,
Madam President, we
Mr.
had the
Leon, wait
opportunity
a
to stop
second.
that right where it
I
was.
will allow you to respond, but there's
Thank you.
two members that are here. I want to hear what they have to say. When they are done, you can respond back to them, okay? So go ahead.
Hi, good evening. Stephanie Droz. I'm a mom of 4 with 3 children in the district actively. My first question is in regards to retention. What is the plan to keep the people that we have on right now? Because with the current state that the teachers and these numbers are, 25 teachers, out of those dual degree teachers, some which my own children have been contributed to for their success, gone. While I respect seniority, as I'm sure many of us do, I am a product of parents who worked on a seniority type of, release to their profession and their retirement. What are we doing when we let go of these young teachers, dual degree special education teachers? What is the plan to keep the ones that we do have that were opted out of that list? 6 teacher assistants who are literally holding down the fort in the classrooms. With the expected numbers for next year, 6 teacher assistants is a lot. 2 guards. We have guards here. Some of you have called on the guards to assist you during your meetings multiple times. These are essential jobs, low paying jobs, I'm sure, for the guards, but extremely essential. In the time that we are in the world right now, letting go of guards and safety, what is the plan? And does the board have space to have a discussion with the community about how this is going to affect us? After we go line by line and we see the numbers, as a parent here, as an active person trying to contribute to the community where I own property, where I run a business, and I'm raising 4 children, I would like to know what space do we have and what we're going to hear from the board to respond to the change outside of those numbers.
So I'll start, and Dr. Talbot, if you want to finish off. One of the things that Dr. Talbot did say in the beginning was that there will be community meetings, right? And so at the community meeting, this could be an avenue where community members can share their thoughts, their ideas, and not connected to the line by line, which is very, very important. In regards to your other questions, we will continue to look at the situation where we have right now agreed to excess X number of teachers. The same concern that you have in terms of accessing bilingual teachers, any teacher aides that are in the classroom, that's concerning to all of us. If we can reverse it in any sort of way down the line, that's something that we definitely will do. So to answer your question, it's something that we're going to continue to look at into the final time that the budget is done. And then even after the budget is done, if we're able to do something after that, we definitely will. One of the biggest, so that's just I don't know, Dr. Talbot, you want anything to that?
Just reiterating what Madam President has said, our goal is to retain as many staff as we can. And we will do all that we can to do so. If you would like to be a part of our community connections, please make sure the clerk has your information. We'd love to sit and talk with you further.
And just one last question. I'd like to know if the board contributes to the reevaluation of how, as an entire community, the communication goes through to the parents and the rest of the community. Our community is made up of a lot of people, like some have spoken in the past, whose children have already graduated from the schools. There's this year specifically and last year, there's been a lot of errors in the calendars, in the notices, information missing, people who do not have access to the internet community. And outside of you guys knowing, a lot of us active parents and community members are consistently advocating and spreading the news. But I would like to know if you guys have contributed or consider that the way that you are communicating about said notices and committees is not reaching everybody that it needs to reach.
Right, so when it comes to, if I understand one part correctly, when it comes to committees, are you talking about like different committees that we may have?
In general,
Okay, so-
anything that's sent out from the school district.
So one of the things that we definitely try to do in terms of communication with our community, because we know that not everyone has a computer or an iPad, right? So that's number one. So when we're able to send it out via mailing, then it goes out via mailing, and also then there's communication that will go out through a robocall. This is something else that when we sit down and we hear from community members, we can also get other ideas about how we can best communicate with our community. Thank you.
If I could just make one point. The primary communication tool for the district is called Parent Square, and it's Ed Law 2D compliant, which we are required to use when we do communicate. All notices are sent out or should be sent out as a smart alert, which would automatically translate into the language that you choose to receive it. And so we've asked the schools to do tutorials. And if there's anyone here tonight who would like to have a tutorial on the Parent Square, we will be more than happy to meet with you to shore up and improve our communication processes. Thank you.
Nakia Wolf, 100 Avalon Court. Good evening, everyone. A couple of things. One, some of the most important is that I'm hearing individuals who are asking for answers to questions, and it seems as though those answers aren't coming across very clearly. Just taking one example as it relates to the charter school piece. If we are budgeting for students to go to a charter school, we are also budgeting for students who aren't going to charter schools. So if that dollar amount is traveling with that child, is it that we are expending the costs for that child's education, or is it the transportation cost that is the delta? Because now we have to send them someplace else. So I think that it is that we need to be more clear in articulating what exactly that cost is that is causing the driver, because that is something that people are not getting. That's number one. Number two, I have members who are listening to everything that is happening tonight, and I think there was a little bit of maybe they can't hear. When everyone was talking about how many people were actually being accessed, it said 25 teachers. That's not my understanding and our understanding. It's 32 teachers, correct? So 32 teachers from the ATA. Now, I'm just talking about all the other numbers. Remember, we all have we have collective unions. I'm here specifically asking about ATA. So there were 34 people on the list, 2 of which were already gone. So that's 32 people. So that changes the number a little bit. I don't want anybody who's sitting at home to hear the number 25 and think that maybe they've done something to save my job. So it's very important that we get that information correct, right?
Sure. So there were 25 teachers on the list and 6 PPS staff on the list, all a part of ATA. And certainly we can meet with you tomorrow to make sure that we're on the same page with the
Right. So
with the names.
essentially, there were 32 ATA members that were accessed. Some of those individuals were not classroom teachers. So I think that's really the only distinction that had to be made so that people understood, because there's a miscommunication in terms of what the community understands. They only understand the number 32. My members only understand the number 32. So it probably would have been better to say 25 classroom teachers and then however many PPS teachers, right? And as we move forward in terms of building trust and getting this budget proposed, I think that the community would like to know that in formulating this budget, since it is going to be obviously larger than it was before, that there are certain things and mechanisms that are going to be put in place to make sure that the overspending that occurred doesn't occur again. And then the other piece is in the formulation of that budget, that it's part of a plan to bring teachers back at some point in time and negotiate those unsettled contracts that are outstanding. So that is something that needs to be articulated so that people feel as though that their tax dollars and money is going to be well spent.
Okay. So at this point in time, I'm just gonna, I may take one more question. That's it. I just want to kind of wrap it up because we've gone past we've gone to an hour, and I didn't, normally what happens when we go past the 30 minutes, I have to ask the board members, can we extend an hour? And I just want to go for it. So I'll take one more question, and then we will continue to receive questions.
Dan Holmes, 12 Commerce Boulevard. The general question I have is, as far as the deficit and the services, special needs, safety, security, health insurance, and the charter schools, seems like none of these things are unique to this district. So I don't understand. It doesn't seem like this is a unique problem. So what is the problem that happened?
Either Dr. Talbot
I mean,
or
it seems
Ms.
like the only thing
Bawatsi.
that's unique is the board.
Yeah. So I'm going to give it over to either Dr. Talbot or Ms. Bawatsi. One of you guys can respond to that particular question.
So I'll start and then Ms. Buatsi could, I'm sure, add more clarity. So we were talking about certain budget drivers from the 22-23 school year. So a set amount of money was allocated for special education. Hypothetically, I'm using that as an example because it was one of the areas that where we overspent. And so a part of that budgeting process is sitting, looking at the data, studying the trends, talking to the administrators, understanding the data surrounding the decisions to be made for the next year. So for example, maybe $1 million was budgeted, but the district spent $1.8 million. I'm throwing these numbers out because it's not at the top of my head. And so that 0.8 contributed to a deficit, an overspending. And so some of those budget drivers were mandated services. Some of them were perhaps some decisions that could have been made differently, some internal controls, as our auditors have pointed out, that we're analyzing now. But those monies were spent on certain drivers that we called out. And those were not the only ones. The ones that we shared during our opening remarks were some of those that were more overspent. Ms. Buatsi, is there anything more you want to share?
Right, but all districts have these items and all districts struggle with these things. This one failed, correct?
All districts,
Right,
yes.
but this district failed us.
So I think,
I beg to differ a little bit.
Yeah.
Just
from
kind of
what-
speaking to the mic.
I beg to differ a little bit from what you said. Sometimes, and in this particular instance here, when you are doing the budget, yes, you project that you would have maybe 1 or 2 students, and usually you have a projection based on the data that is available at that time. In this particular instance, there was a situation where we had kids who came to the country. So it was very difficult to have anticipated those enrollments. And we are required by law, mandated by law, to educate those students. So those drivers, when we talk about certain mandates beyond our control, that is what we are referring to.
Doesn't every district have that?
Yes, it's not every school district that had that, because I work in a school district for a couple of years that didn't have that.
just gotta speak
Because,
to the mic.
because you will be able to anticipate that. But people coming into the country, a large number in that regard, is something that is quote unquote unusual.
Yeah, but that wasn't the 5 things that you said earlier of the problem for the deficit. That wasn't one of them.
So
We are going back to the budget drivers. What drove the deficit? That's different.
Yeah, but why wasn't that explained? You gave me security, special needs, safety, security, health insurance, charter school. Those were the things that were explained as the problem.
That was what we were referring to when we're talking about the 24-25 budget.
The deficit.
No, the deficit is one story from last year. And we are also talking about what we are projecting for the 24-25.
That was
budget.
explained.
And
as
those
the
are
reasons
the
for
drivers.
deficit. That's what the reasons for the deficit. But now it's changed.
All right. All right, thank you. So can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting at 10:02?
So moved.
Carol Seehoff is first.
Second.
Leslie Kretz is second. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you for coming out.